Buenos dias, good morning. Welcome to Cafecito con HACE. Hope you are well, staying positive and focused on what you can control. Welcome and use this opportunity to network. Drop in where you are tuning in from in the chat. I am tuning in from Chicago this morning, and use the comment section, the chat, to network and connect with one another. My name is Patricia Mota, and I serve as president and CEO of HACE, the Hispanic Alliance for Career Enhancement, a national nonprofit whose mission since 1982 is to positively impact workplaces by cultivating the community of Latino talent, providing our community the insight, access, and support to be successful in their careers. So, few key announcements. We have our HACE Colores, which is our LGBTQ cohort leadership training program information session that's taking place tomorrow. So if you haven't registered for that yet, this Friday, jam-packed, is our ERG-BRG symposium that's taking place. You can also find more information on our website. If you are local to Chicago, we have our local auxiliary board that's leading a fundraising event on Friday, November 10th. And last but not least, if you're looking for your next career opportunity, we've got a recruitment series that's taking place on November 7th. So I know I zipped through that because I want to get into our charla, but all that information can be found on our website or also in the comment section. So let's get started. We have our special guest today, Javier Farfan, who is the culture marketing strategist at the NFL, or otherwise known as the National Football League. Buenos dias, Javier. How are you today?
I'm doing very well. Thank you for having me. Super excited to be here.
Wonderful. We're excited for this charla. I think the last chance I got to see you or connect with you briefly was earlier in the year where we kicked off at the Super Bowl in Arizona. So it's good to reconnect. Here we are towards the end of the year, reconnecting. And I think you do so many great things at the NFL. So I'm looking forward to our audience to get to know who you are. But first things first, on Cafecito con HACE, we like to ask, how do you like your cafecito or your morning beverage of choice?
Yes. So how do I like it? I actually I love to drink tea. And it's a funny story because I actually lived in Seattle I used to be a cafecito con leche, like grandma used to hook it up. And then I went to live in Toronto, which is kind of like the coffee capital of the United States. And I drank so much coffee, I got tired of it, and my tea range, and I've been on tea since then. But I have tea, ginger tea, peppermint tea. Keep it super simple, no sugar, no nothing. Just get that little spark from that tea.
Wonderful. That's definitely a good, healthy option. I try to alternate every now and then, but I know the peppermint tea is good for you as well. Can you tell us, Javier, about your cultural, your professional background, how you got to your current role today?
Yeah, so I've been a marketer the past 25 years, so it's been a little bit of a journey. But my prior, I'll start from the beginning. I'm a native New Yorker, born and raised in New York. My family's from Ecuador. They got here in the 70s, and I'm the first one to ever graduate college, go to get my master's and stuff. I didn't know what I wanted to do. All I knew is that I had to go to school. So I went to a state university in New York called SUNY Binghamton University. Graduated from there. Still didn't know what to do. But I was smart enough to get into the program. I went to Columbia University. Got into a PhD program to go into psychology, and I did that for a couple of years. And I was like, I do not want to do this. But I already in. At the same time, I started a hip hop magazine called Stress Magazine in the late 90s and early 2000s. Became very successful. We had Eminem, Jay-Z, Fat Joe, Daddy Yankee, you name it. Whoever was hot during that time, we had at that front cover. We did a ton of promotion, created a business out of it, and a .com that we actually sold to a company called UBO, which was one of the startups during that time. And that's when I realized I wanted to get into marketing and I wanted to get into some form of entertainment. I transferred to a maven, graduated from Columbia, and then became a management consultant for Accenture in music and entertainment, in media and entertainment. Did a ton of deals in the BD space. Went to JP Morgan, did that for a while. And then my first entertainment job was working at Viacom, where I did business development, and I helped really develop, new businesses around Ultimate Fighting. I launched, Diego, Dora the Explorer, Diego's the cousin, that business. It did a ton of work with, video games, created the Video Game Awards, worked on music, the VMA. So I did enough in that space, and it was like an amazing experience. From there, I went to work at Microsoft. They created an entertainment division out in Seattle. That's when I went to Seattle, and I was probably number 23 in this new entertainment division. And we launched Xbox Live, Zoom, Windows Media Center, Windows Phones, and I did that for around 6 years. And then I became the vice president of music and entertainment for PepsiCo, which is where I met Marissa. Mm-hmm. We were peers at the time. I was at the PepsiCo side, she was on the Frito side. Spent 5 years there, and I was recruited to work at Verizon. And at Verizon, I became vice president of strategy in marketing. So always in that like entertainment space in some form or fashion at a corporation, and did that for 2 years, working under a leader called Diego Scotti, another Latino, Argentinian. He was the CMO there. But, I got a little burnt out from just being in corporate, and I decided to jump out and start my own practice. And I started an agency called J. Wolf Advisors, which I still am a part of. And it was a hustle in the beginning, like you had to figure out where your clients, but little by little through the relationship I built, and networking is super important. I got Anheuser-Busch, I got Miller Coors as client, McDonald's, New Balance, and then I started working for Jay-Z Nation, and I became their interim CMO of a platform they have, a streaming platform called Tidal. So I helped them kind of build that business, sell some of that business to Sprint, and through that relationship, I was able to connect. When he got the deal with the NFL, he introduced me to the marketing folks at the NFL, and I became part of the NFL team. And this was pre Marissa, so I was working directly for Tim Ellis, which is the CMO. And then Marissa came in and kind of really unlocked a lot of the things that I was working on. So my first real gig there was at the NFL was help bring to life, the Miami Super Bowl with, Shakira and J-Lo, and then bringing in Bad Bunny and J Balvin, knowing that we had to go after young people. And I'm also on the side, I'm also a professor at Syracuse University. So I teach the business of entertainment for undergrads and grad students.
I know everybody's like jaws dropped right now. Just trying to take it all in. You named a lot of top brands, right? That everybody knows, artistas that we all follow, and just so much that was there in the spirit of alignment and your career trajectory in the entertainment marketing space. But also you mentioned, key folks in terms of the power of maintaining relationships in your network as you continue to progress in your career, and the opportunities that came or that connected right your way as a result. And so I love that you also mentioned Maria Solis, right? A lot of us also, another Latina leader that we look up to, and it's you and Marisa and other great people, Latinos, right? That are making big strides at the NFL, right? Which is the Latinos are growing market, right, for the NFL. So tell us more. And I know you all listening and tuning in have questions and comments. So I encourage you to engage in the chat because we'll get to that. But how do you engage generations of Latinos in the NFL marketing strategies?
Yeah, so I think one of the key pieces that I realized as we as we got in there, you know, there was a ton of work done prior to me getting there. There was a gentleman called Alvaro, who was the publisher of Sports Illustrated, was a consultant to to our commissioner, and he worked with their insights team to really develop like what the future of the NFL audience is going to be. And in any business currently, you're seeing the growth of Latino population and the growth of their GDP is going to impact your business in some capacity. So Al was really working on developing, I guess, unlocking that for a certain extent through our broadcasters and like that. So when I came in, they wanted more of a marketing hand to activate some key initiatives that which Super Bowl was one of them. Now that we were going into Miami, but I think one of the key things that I focused on was really understanding who that consumer is, and who that Latino looks like, and what a future fan would look like, and communicate that to the organization, and really help them understand that we need to be inclusive into the marketing that we're doing, but also being very specific to this community. And that was really the first stage of that process, really having the organization understand the consumer and start thinking about how to incorporate it into the activities that are happening. Then the second phase of that was, okay, let's communicate and message out to them, what they want to hear from us. And that was really the second phase of, my tenure at the NFL, was rethinking, the classic things that people do at an organization when they think Latino. It's like, oh, let's just do a Heritage Month. And I was like, look, this has to go beyond Heritage Month, right? So I moved away from, the Heritage Month promotion that we have, and really created a season-long initiative called Por la Cultura. We tested out Marissa, and then when Marissa came in, she really unlocked it, because she said, look, Hobbs, we work together at Pepco. What would you want to do here? And I kind of gave her a little bit of a blueprint and of the ideal status. And then, as her being the leader of all of the brand communication, reporting to our CMO, she took that opportunity to really kind of focus on a couple of things, like youth specifically. We knew flag football was going to come to the Olympics, and we were planning for that. And then the idea of Latinoism in the United States, and kind of that type of identity. And that's where that Super Bowl ad came out of, which was, at one point, connected to this Por la Cultura initiative. So that really kind of unlocked and got a lot of visibility, and we're continuing to do that.
Yeah, and for perhaps if anybody, which I missed that commercial, can you share with us with that? And because I thought it was so inspirational, and we heard a lot of great feedback on that. And especially, there's a piece where the parents, right, in terms of the pride and with their daughter.
Yeah, I think, if we look at last season already? Yeah, last season, we started the season with Anthony Ramos. So we worked with him, and we really celebrated the fan. So we had him really talk about how we as Latinos, get excited for the season. And he opened the season for us, which was a great opportunity to work with, a young, A-lister talent that we have within our space. Then the middle of the season, we had a football game in Mexico City, and we called that, and we created a spot where we actually highlighted a bunch of young Mexican football, players, and kind of showed them going to the game in Mexico. And then the last particular piece was the idea of creating a spot during the Super Bowl, because we always have prime real estate there that we can use. And we decided to focus on a Mexican flag football star Mexico team. Her name is Diana Flores. And we actually, Rebecca Landa, who's her counterpart there in the middle, in the spot that we did Mexico game. But with Diana Flores, we featured her. And we basically wanted to tell the story through film that, of the rise of women in flag football. And, you know, it's a comedic take to it. Like, nobody can really catch her. And it was a minute long of her going from actual field all the way to her home. And at the end, you see her running with her and her teammates. And the messaging is like, for the future of football and women and stuff like that, and really advocates for football. So that was that. But what we decided to do from a social media perspective is actually make it a surprise for her family to see her being in a Super Bowl spot. They weren't aware of this. We kept that a secret to her family. We wanted to get the emotional attention from her family of hearing this. And this is a family from Mexico. So we flew them from Mexico to Phoenix, and then sat them down, you know, at a Super Bowl environment, and we just put cameras. We didn't do anything but put cameras, and we let them watch the commercial for the first time, and then ask them a couple questions, how they feel and stuff like that. And you can see the emotional state that they were at, because we got raw, you know, I guess, emotion. And that's what we're trying to do, right? If we think about this community, is really about showing inclusivity is one. Yeah. Number two is showing kind of components of us rising to the occasion and the sentiment behind that, right? And that was key to the overall strategy of engaging with consumer. And it was extremely impactful.
Oh yeah, for sure. Like, I think the waterworks were happening, at least in my eyes. A lot of folks that were watching that. I know this is such a great conversation. As you all have been tuning in, those of us joining us live, you just, you know, such an inspirational story. And this is, you know, one of the leaders that has been bringing a lot of great entertainment to our comunidad. And so we thank you. And we're super proud of all that you been able to accomplish at the NFL. So I know we've got maybe time for comments or a question before we have to wrap it up. And so let's see if we got anything that's coming. I know we got a few minutes. Anything you'll add on Por la Cultura, Javier? That initiative?
Yeah, no. Yeah, I think so. This season in particular, as we're thinking about the NFL and the idea of like Future Por la Cultura, last year was really about celebrating the fan and the play and the folks around the game. This year, what we really realized, we did an initiative last season where we put flags on people's helmets from what country they are, and we just found out the breadth of Latinos that actually play, you know, American football professionally, which sometimes we don't get that due to the last name. You know, people are come from mixed families and stuff like that. We had around 50 plus Latinos playing. So we decided to highlight them in our Por la Cultura initiative. So we actually focused on 3 players, Francisco 49ers, Fred Warner, a Colombian, he's half Mexican, a Colombian player that plays for the New England Patriots, Gonzalez, and then another Mexican player is Elijah Sucker. And, you know, I think what we realize is that Latinos want to be seen in these big places and show that they are the superstars and where they're coming from, the origin stories. And it's been pretty successful. We're seeing, you know, the results of the engagement of Latinos and the viewership of the games are a lot more. People want to find out about other players like that. I even found out there's a half Ecuadorian player in there, and I would never Ecuadorians playing football.
Shout out to all our Ecuadorians. I know we got folks tuning in, and also alum from your alma mater. So we have a question or a comment from Jennifer. And she's like, can you talk a little bit about the growth opportunities for leagues and teams have in unlocking and tapping into Latina fandom?
Yeah.
Thank you for the question, Jennifer.
Yeah, thank you, Jennifer, for the question. I think that one of the key things that the work that Marissa, Sarah, and myself on what we call the growth audience team is really to unlock the future of the business, right? And when you think about it, young people, of course, right, because they're young and they're learning how to play the game or interested in the game. That's one piece. The second piece of that is women is a big unlock. So, you know, pushing that with women has been a big effort, and that's why flag football is an integral part of our storyline. Um, and as you think about what we did last season with Diana Flores, we try to use this idea of intersectionality. Young people, women, and Latinos put it together because nobody is a monolith as how they see themselves, right? We're Latino, we're women. We could have different sexual preferences. We come from different parts of the world. So what we try to do very strategically is find a message that carries through all segments, but then hone in on how to get that message to some key demographics. Latinas being a big part of that. So some initiatives that we kind of focus on to get the Latina is we have a creator program where we bring in, for the lack of better words, like influencers/ambassadors come and participate in the game, even if they're not super fans of football, because we want to introduce that and welcome them in. So, for example, we found somebody who comes from a family that loves the Raiders. Her name is Snow the Product. She's a Mexican rapper. We invited her there. We actually worked with her to create some music to put into the stadium. We invite folks like that. We have a number of Latinas that we're inviting throughout the games, so we can start a relationship not just with them, but then to create content and create that relationship beyond that. Then we also work with our broadcasters like Fox Deportes, ESPN Deportes, and have helps reach that audience and the female audience. For example, we work very closely with ESPN and ESPN Deportes to have the first female person that talks about play-to-play in Spanish. And she's the second woman to ever do this job. Her name is Rebecca Landa. And we push those initiatives to make sure to have more diversity within even the broadcast of the game. So
I love it, Javier. I think we can thank you for all of those amazing examples. We do have to wrap it up. Those of you tuning in, continue to ask questions or engage in the chat as this video will stay, and then we'll share it, of course, with Javier and his team. So, Javier, let's wrap it up. What are you most hopeful for?
What am I most hopeful for? I'm most hopeful to see, more Latino and Latinas in leadership positions, pushing the perspective of diversity and really unlocking, really compelling creative or advertising, marketing, or any part of their field, and really helping advocate for the younger people coming in. I think the unlock for myself was working with Marissa, because as her in a very big shoes to fill, she unlocked for myself, but she unlocked it for a lot of people. So the more we can get people in those leadership roles, the better.
So getting more Latinos in leadership roles so they can unlock potentials for others that are coming along. Javier, mil gracias. Thank you for sharing your time, your insights with us. You are an inspiration, and to all of you, hasta la próxima. Until next time, thank you. Bye.